Hello and welcome to GM Talks. Today we're gonna try to understand chess, and I'm gonna try to make you understand chess on a level from 1100 in rating to maybe 2200. So there will be something for you in here. I promise that it will make you a better player, or at least understand chess better. If we're going to look at a very important concept of chess, is bishop versus knight. They are similar in strength, but they are very different. The knight is sneaky, like a ninja. It can jump over things, and the bishop is a long range, like a laser. It cuts through things, but it's colorblind. So which is better? Well, it depends, and that's what everybody hates. They want clear, solid answers. This one is better here, this one is better here. But today I'm going to show a little bit where some rules that are pretty secure, that you can rely on, that will help you make better decision when you play chess. So let's get into it. It's a game between Magnus Carlsen and Bogdan-Daniel, the best Romanian, one of the best Romanian player, talented player, very young, and it also features a nice new gambit. I didn't know about this gambit, but it's of course always interesting what Magnus Carlsen does, even after he is not world champion anymore. This is a rapid game, or a blitz game maybe even, I don't know. It's not important. The important thing is the game. So let's get started. Bogdan started, or Deac starts with e4. Carlsen plays the French. And as in the opening, of course, it's about fighting for the center. And this goes out to everybody. When you're in doubt, fight for the center. Get your pieces out, get some space, and fight for the center. And don't expose your king too much. So here, black has gotten a stakehold in the center with e6 and d5. White, and he's attacking the pawn here, so white defends it with the knight here. Okay, knight f6 attacks again, and white plays bishop d5, pinning the knight. So it will not be able to take on e4. If he takes here, you can just take back, because the queen is of course more valuable than a knight and a bishop. And here black plays an interesting move. I've never seen this before. It's h6, and if this is good, well, who knows? I find this pretty fascinating that you can play this move. It looks, if you go here, we will go into a gambit line in the Richter-Verosov, so something like this, and black will win the pawn. White will get some compensation due to these pawns having gone forward, but it's considered a little bit dubious. So, but this of course was the plan. If you take here and something like this, then this structure is a disaster. And it's both is because they're isolated, but it's also a double pawn, and it will be very hard to defend. And when you have double pawns, isolated double pawns like this, then the square in front of them, I'll make that in another color, will become very weak. This is a very common thing. So, and sometimes when you are, for instance, if you are white in this position, you're not trying to win one of the pawns fast. You're trying to blockade them, make black passive, and then you will torture him to death, because he will have problems defending all the squares here. We see also this square is now totally under white's control, and if you move the pawns forward. Another rule, very important rule, when you move double pawns forward, they become weaker. This is almost a universal rule. So that's why you keep them back. Okay, so you have to take with the queen, otherwise you will... and here, white is winning a pawn. But it turns out the computer is not very... seems to like this for black, actually. Just developing fast, and well, you sacrifice a pawn, but if white is going to hold on to it, he has to speed up black's development, and black is hoping to get a rook into this diagonal very fast, pressurizing the pawn, sometimes by castling queenside, sometimes by by just casting kingside and play rook d8. For instance, if something like this, then already here, something like this, I think black can get away with this, followed by this due to the, oops, that was a long castle. Very long castle. It's nicer though, but you actually need the rook here. So that would be probably give some compensation. Notice that something like this is never really serious. You can take this one and so on. So that looks like a cool gambit. You can of course win the pawn with this, but then something like this, and I think black probably have decent compensation here. The bishop is not very good, and this pawn will be weak, and this bishop will be very strong. So this is not totally. It looks like a cool gambit in the French, a new gambit. I've never seen it before. So cool. Anyway, bishop c4, take castle, and rook comes here as we expected. Actually threatening to win the bishop because of the pin on the, and this is something especially for beginners or players with low ratings. Be very wary of pins, especially pins like this where it is the king, because well, you have to respect the king. And it goes like this, and you take, and of course he has to take back with a knight to keep. This one is under threat by the rook here. So knight c6 attacking the bishop here. If white wants to keep the pawn here, he has to take, but then again he's not keeping the pawn, because if he moves the knight here, then c5 is happening. So and this pin will make sure that also this threat will make sure that black will regain the pawn. So this makes sense, and something like this is interesting. We can see that white has a knight here versus a bishop here, and black is a little bit more active. But the big but is we just spoke about this, and this is what is very confusing for a lot of players, is that when does this rule apply? You just said before that these pawns are weak, and now it looks like black is equal here, or maybe even has better chances to play for a win than white has. Well, how can that? Well, the thing is, the limited material in general is good for the one with against the pawn, but here black is so active, and the bishop will be so strong that these pawns are actually weaker than these pawns. So I'll make them another color so we can see they're weak. So it's, if you are managed somehow to arrange these pieces so they cannot be, these pawns, so they cannot be attacked, control the position, blockade the pawns, and then put black into a passive position, and then try to grind him down, then you will be better. But if you don't succeed in doing that, then definitely black is fine, and especially here the board is very open, so the bishop is better than the knight. Knight moves, and it's somehow to the wrong square. But the problem is, of course, you're trying to control what's going on. You're afraid of this move was a bit annoying because of the threat here. This pawn might be hanging, so you put the knight here, avoiding this this problem. But the knight is not doing much on the king side. Nothing's going to happen on the king side, actually. Black is happy. He's got this is effectively a tempo up, because there's no bottom back rank mate. White has that problem, that he probably needs to secure the king at some point, and also black is faster with the pawn here. So bishop goes out. It could not go to f5, but it goes to e6. I'm eyeing this. Of course, it's covered at the moment, but so on c5 attacking, getting the pawn from, and if white takes this, then black's structure is secured, and this bishop is on the right color. It's on the opposite colors of the pawns, and he will be able to attack all white's pawn. So that looks like nice. Here we see that the thing is, you probably would like to play something like this. The problem is then these pawns will become weaker, and it will be probably easier to attack them. So even though you don't want to put, and also if you play something and put this here, then black can probably gain control over the open file forever, not allowing a rook here. So it's not so easy, so you don't really want to put the pawn on b3, but there's no better alternative. And of course, the thing is, if a weaker player have this position with black, the structure might count. For a player like Magnus Carlsen, maybe the best player in the world, the structure, he will play actively enough and precisely enough, so this will not be a serious problem unless he is in trouble. So here, and white goes here, and also we can also see that white is clearly losing the thread of the game. a5, and we see that even though these pawns were weak, they are also strong. Now if you were able to sort of somehow control the position and block these pawns, then they will be very difficult to defend if the knight gets in to attack them, but it's not going to happen. And white secures the king. He's not playing, and I think white was probably not worried at this point. He's thinking, if this comes here, I can always play something like this and then remove it here. I'm looking forward to getting my knight here, where it will both be eyeing this square and eyeing this square, this weak pawn, and controlling this file. So that's a dream square. Of course, black sometimes can put pressure on it with the f pawn. c4. So black resolves the problem with the double pawn and goes on attack. And rook c1, take. It looks weird because white just put an x-ray here and you're opening for the x-ray. But it turns out that, and this is clearly where you can see, very important, clearly where you can see that this bishop here is much better than the knight here. So white is having to defend well here. I think the best defense is something like rook e2. And remember, black has to keep this pawn because that's the one who's going to queen. If the queen side is liquidated, then it's even, or the knight might even be better because it's like light-footed. It can jump all over the place while the bishop is colorblind. So rook e2 here seems to be fine. For instance, it looks like something like this could be a problem, but then maybe just this move and trying to get into a drawn rook ending or something like that. So that looks like a decent way to play. Instead, he played this very passive move, and we see that white also has another, black also has another plan. That is to get the rooks here. If they can get like into his belly, and he will be torn apart. So that's what he's looking for. He's looking for jumping in here, and white panics. He has to play rook e2 here, I think, or he panics. No, he panics now. He panics now, and of course this is a little bit spooky. You are a little bit afraid of this kind of position. You don't want the rooks in. Black is very active. This pawn could also be a strong pawn. Maybe you do something like this, and it's this bishop has a very strong effect here. You can't move the pawns without losing everything. So rook here, and this is actually becomes very clear now that black is much better. Now it's because white is consistently eliminating his weaknesses and creating weaknesses in white's camp. And take, and this is what you don't want, because the bishop is long range, and we have a weakness here, and we have the other pieces over there. So, and the knight does not have a place to sit. Usually a knight needs somewhere to sort of it needs a foothold, otherwise it will become weak, and black will gain tempo by attacking the knight, unsettling the position, and so on. and goes back. You don't really want to take the pawn. You're trying to win something. Here there's also the other problem. You can't really move the rook because then comes the rook here. So he goes here, and here comes a very important concept. Getting in here, getting in front of the pawn, and this is an important concept. If you can put a rook like this in a position where it both attacks white weakness and defends black's weakness, then it's almost always good, unless you fall for some sort of a fork. And now white is already in serious trouble. We clearly see that that this is not going his way. He tries, this is out of panic, and now the pawn is lost. Still, in a blitz game, the knight is very tricky, so you might lose this game with white because you fall for some sort of a fork. But in general, no, nothing can be done here. And we see that you can just defend the rook, and this was just to get time here, and very nice little concept here. F5, perfect timing. Black really wants to play F4, settling these on white squares, so they will later be attackable by. Now it's blue. Be attackable by the bishop. The rook is passive. This is what you like. If white goes here, then he's already in Zugzwang, and this bishop is eyeing this one. And of course, one of the way you can win here is by queening this pawn, if that's possible. But another thing is to let it go and start winning all the pawns on the king side. And that's probably nicer because but the white is not going to allow that. So F4 is not what is played. He played King F2. F4, you have to give squares to get squares. White gets this square, but it's not really. It's both attackable by the bishop, but it's also making sure these guys will be weaknesses, attackable weaknesses. H4, putting it on black. You notice that black put all his pawn on black to make his bishop better. The king is coming, and it's basically going for this square. So that's where it's heading. If it's allowed, and white start to panic, and here comes bishop b4. That is to be able to change. If white was to go f4, then you can go rook b3, forcing the exchange of the bishop, the rook. So white goes here, bishop here. Again, you're really trying to be sure that there will be something to attack in this way. Knight goes back, rook c4, not allowing the knight back again, controlling the square, and the king comes forward, and white tries to get an active rook. He is here in Zugzwang, not much to do. Rook, so black king is about to cross, and here Deac rather prematurely resigned. It's not really necessary to resign here, but of course this one is serious. There's also this problem, and of course we can clearly see that the bishop is much better than the knight. The knight will never be able to get back to the a pawn. So this was a very nice understanding by Carlsen, a great display of when bishops are strong and how to play this kind of game, and it was from the highest level where you expect that the opponent plays well and defends as best as possible. So very nice and very instructive, and I think you should watch this video again. This was DM Talks. Thank you for watching. Remember to sign up for our email list so you will not miss when we get around to making videos. And also, if you're not already a subscriber, what are you waiting for? And like and share and so on. Thank you for watching this.